Hi, my name is Carmen, and I am an early childhood special education teacher, a life and ADHD coach, and I'm the host of this podcast, Authentically ADHD. I created this podcast to help anyone wondering if they have ADHD, people who have been diagnosed for a while and want some more support and community. I'm here to bring you the latest research on ADHD and neurodiversities while we talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly of ADHD. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hi, my friend, and welcome back to the podcast. This week, I wanted to give you a peek at the Burnout course that I created. I looked around and searched for things like this because I struggled with the cycle of working and working and working, and then burning out, needing to recover, and then going through the cycle again. And since I've been able to find my way off of that hamster wheel, I wanted to share it with everybody because I could never find just one place to find like where, something to help me improve and not only improve my life so that I would stop burning out, but also to help me sustain that improvement so that I could continue to work at a pace and at a capacity that really worked for me. So, I am going to give you the Burnout course intro and class 1 out of 4 in this episode. So, it's about half of the course to see if you want to, hear the rest of it. And in order to get the rest of it, there are 3 ways to do that. You can go to the Patreon and buy the workbook and the course either separately, or you can subscribe to the Patreon at the higher tier and you get access to just everything in the library plus early releases of episodes. Or just subscribe to this podcast for $2.99 a month, and you will automatically get access to any paid content that I release on here. So, without further ado, here is the intro and class 1 of the Burnout course called the Authentically ADHD Burnout course. Prevent burnout and sustain the prevention of burnout. Hey there, ADHDer. Do you ever find yourself yet again stuck in this cycle where you work and you're productive AF for some time and then you completely burn out, you have to recover, and then it keeps happening over and over again? ADHD burnout is real and it's dangerous, and I've experienced it too many times. So I decided to create a course, the Authentically ADHD Burnout course. This course will help you gain self-awareness, recognize, and learn to live in a way that prevents this burnout cycle. If you're interested, visit the link in the show notes or visit patreon.com/authenticallyadhd. You can buy the course on its own or get the course with a ton of other stuff if you sign up for the higher membership of the tiers in the Patreon. Again, that's patreon.com/authenticallyadhd. Hi, and welcome to the Authentically ADHD Burnout course. I'm so glad that you are here because ADHDers definitely struggle from burnout way more than neurotypical people do. We reach it faster and it can look different. It's also very dangerous. From the clients that I've had that have gone through it and from my personal experience, I can tell you that burnout is dangerous. It's dangerous to your mental health and your physical health. So there is a workbook attached to these audios, and you can use that to follow along. I'll have questions in there and things that I ask from the course and other tools that you can use to help create a life that helps prevent the burnout. Okay? So let's talk about what is burnout. What's specifically ADHD burnout? What is that? So the thing about burnout in a neurodiverse brain is that we already have a deficit in our capacity, our ability to self-reflect and manage time. So we fall into a hyperfocus or hyperfixation. We tend to get more dopamine from finishing like all of those things, right? Or more. So we get the dopamine from that hyperfixation, and then, you know, we are people pleasing after that. We start people pleasing, and that helps us take on more. We decide to take on more and then a little bit more until we get past our capacity, which is the amount that we can hold or do, the cap off, right? And before you know it, you're not really eating. You're drinking 10 cups of coffee a day, and you're working yourself down to the bone while self medicating to keep up. This will lead to the beginning and middle stages of burnout symptoms, and your quality of work is going to suffer. You forget what you agreed to, you miss deadlines, run late, you feel like you're in chaos. This leads to guilt, shame, and negative self talk. Before you know it, you go into ADHD paralysis, which looks like complete shutdown. This can lead to quitting, illness, mental health episodes. So I would consider those to be like episodes you need to stay home and like sleep, episodes that end you up in the hospital, etc. Chronic stress and exhaustion can even land you, like I said, in the hospital. Ask me how. I know. Actually, please don't. Because if you couldn't tell by this, it has led me into the hospital. Okay, because we have to process sensory input and output differently than a neurotypical, we mask to fit the social norms, okay? And we are masking more when we are in burnout until we can't anymore. We experience ableism, and so our guilt and our shame is super strong. Ableism is a term that means we are treated like neurotypicals by other people. Sometimes we are ableist to ourselves and we think we can do more than we can actually do. That's exceeding your capacity. I also mentioned that we have lower executive functioning skills that can lead to burnout, such as low self awareness, lack of organization, lack of working memory, lack of time management, emotional dysregulation, among so many other things that we struggle with as neurodiverse brains. This is why we experience it so much and so much more often than neurotypical people. We also tend to stay in the cycle for longer and we get stuck in it more often because we aren't able to be self-aware enough to recognize it. We have low self-reflection skills and poor working memory to actually remember the signs and symptoms of ADHD burnout. This can lead to chronic stress, guilt, and full-on burnout, making it harder to recover, which can end us up in the hospital in order to get better. I've experienced every single level of burnout, all the way to the hospital. I couldn't tell the difference between stress, burnout, and complete just mentally sick and done. I was a huge people pleaser. I said yes to everybody. I had no self reflection or awareness skills. And I wasn't using strategies for self care and recovery because I had no idea that I was in burnout. I was telling myself that I was dumb, stupid, not working hard enough because I lived most of my life as an undiagnosed neurodivergent. I was affected by ableism, criticism, overcorrection, and rejection. My mind to me, like my mind went to me, I was the problem. That's what my brain told me. Even though I was trying to do 20 times the work that I was able to, So, how do we recognize that we're in burnout or even completely burnt out? Like I mentioned before, it does take some self awareness. You need to build in check in times to really assess how you're feeling. That means connecting with that thing that we hate, our emotions, your capacity, and building your executive functioning skills along with accommodating for them. That will drive, like, that will drive the recovery. We will dig deeper into this in audios 3 and 4. So, what does ADHD burnout feel like? What are the symptoms, signs, and red flags of I'm in the throes of burnout? Now, these symptoms vary in levels and severity for all different people. The trickiest thing about burnout and the cycles of it is that usually for ADHDers, the first 2 stages of burnout actually feel kind of good, which sucks, but it means that we are gaining dopamine from being extremely productive and people pleasing those around us. Those are 2 signs: a busy schedule with no breaks and people pleasing. Of course, it's hard to notice, especially if you're used to working past your capacity. Plus, again, we lack that self awareness to tell us, hey, you're working past your capacity, you're burning out. When we get to the 3rd stage, we usually end up using substances or unhealthy habits to keep up with the busy schedule nonstop. This can include sleeping less, drinking more coffee, pushing aside self care, and feeling some guilt, but powering through anyway. A lot of the bigger signs and symptoms can be recognized with some self awareness, like the isolation, getting ill more often, depression, appetite changes, negative thought patterns, low work quality, decreased motivation, decreased productivity, more pain in your body, feelings of inadequacy, headaches, overwhelm, high irritability. There are a ton of them. Exhaustion is another one. You may feel completely exhausted and unable to complete your work throughout the weeks. This is also not something that we can do in a 4 course online time span, okay? It does take time, but it's doable. I'm proof, okay? So, this is the end of class 1. So, I want to know, or write it down. What is your biggest takeaway from the first audio? Next time, we will talk about preventing, recovering from burnout, and managing your ADHD around burnout. Speaking of extra supports, I just wanted to tell you all that I've updated my Patreon page to include all of the resources that I've really ever made to be held in one place. Just head to my show notes. The VIP members do get a little extra, but you can also purchase like my brand new ultimate ADHD journal and planner, which I've been using for the past year, that has worked. Nothing is priced over $10, and everything is at least 50 to 100 pages that you can download and print. You can get it binded and sent to you, or you can just read it off your screen and use notebook paper. So if you want or need any type of that kind of extra support, just head to my show notes and click the Patreon link to join. I hope to see you in there. Hi, welcome back. Welcome to class 2. We are going to dive right into what do you do when you're deep in burnout and how to manage and prevent future burnout episodes from happening. So, to recognize that we are even in burnout, it takes some level of self-awareness. Usually, we don't even know we are in burnout until we are exhausted. We're feeling a ton of the symptoms, and basically until we need to stop everything we're doing in order to recover. I've been through it. I used to get stuck in this cycle, And it's not healthy to continue to work like this. So I created routines and I built in supports to get out of and prevent the next burnout cycle. Because in the beginning of the cycle, like I said, we actually feel good. We get dopamine from all the things that we're getting done, from all of the people pleasing that we're doing. It would be ideal to be able to stop the cycle right around there so we don't get in too deep. Because as Dr. Barkley says, we overestimate how much we can get done in the short term, and we underestimate how much of the things we can get done in the long term. This is why we cannot build out the steps of a long term project. We can't break those down in our brains. We are also unaware of our capacity. Can we add to the capacity that's already there? Like, we add to it. Our emotional capacity, which is, self-regulation, irregulation of people around you. Emotional capacity also includes things that are going on in your life. Maybe you had a fight with your friend, your significant other. We also have mental capacity. This has to do with anything that's required of your job, some paperwork, answering questions throughout the day if you're a teacher or if you have children yourself. And then there's, anything else that mentally fatigues you. And then there's physical capacity, right? That could be a job that has heavy, hard work like construction, or in my opinion, teaching. And then working out too much because we, feel we want that dopamine from that working out. See, do you see how a lot of it is dopamine chasing? So, what happens a lot of the time is that we set ourselves up for the burnout cycle by planning each day past our capacity. The days that we feel the utmost hyper focus and motivation, and all of it has blown in, and we think we can work like that every day. But these days are so rare. They happen like, I don't know, once or twice a month. So, the first step to preventing burnout is to become more self aware. Build your awareness of self by writing out your thoughts and your emotions, by checking in with yourself and your capacity to make sure that you're not planning to work past it. I actually check in with my capacity quite a few times a day now. I used to not even know what that meant. Like, check in with my capacity. What does that mean? It means sitting down, stopping, and assessing how you feel. Another step you can take to recognize burnout is to recognize our stressors and differentiate them from our stress. Yes, stress and stressors are different things. A stressor is a person, a place, or a thing that sets off your stress, a hormonal response to something that your brain labels as dangerous. See, if you can separate your stressors from the actual why behind it, because there are uncontrollable stressors like work duties, traffic, and how other people act, but there are also controllable stressors like being late, your schedule, and money management. So I'd invite you to write it down. What is controllable? What is not? What are your stressors? What causes your stress? And how do you handle that stress? I have this amazing book that I have listened to probably, I don't know, 10 times through already. It's called Burnout, and it's by Emily and Amelia Nagoski. They wrote it together, and it explains how we can end our stress response cycle so that stress isn't the driver, of our burnout. So, what they recommend is identifying your stressor, the ones you can control and the ones that you can't control, and then make a plan to end your stress response cycle. It can include anything that gets your heart rate up: walking, running, jumping, doing jumping jacks, dancing, and then calming your brain by meditating, journaling, reading, or listening to some music, doing a calming activity that you enjoy. This way, we can find out what is causing your stress and how to end the cycle. So, This book is also really good because it comes on audio. I think it's also physical too. I mean, obviously, all books probably are. I prefer audio over anything else. Like, if it's a video I need to watch, like, no, I need to be moving around, so I can't have a screen in front of me all the time. But if whatever way works for you, that book is really good. It includes a lot of like funny anecdotes and stories and things that go along with getting burnt out, how it feels, and like a bunch of the different reasons, like why those things happen. So, how can we get out of burnout? It's kind of a trick question here because you have to, if you haven't built up your self awareness and your skills and strategies and habits, then you will stay stuck in the cycle of burnout. But here's the thing, you're here, so you've gotten started. But I want you to think about it. You're in the deep of burnout, not sleeping, not eating well, not taking care of yourself. And what happens? We withdraw, we quit, we hide, and procrastinate until like the cycle literally starts over. This is called chronic burnout. And a lot of times as ADHDers, we get stuck in this exhausting cycle. Falling into the cycle is easy. Breaking the cycle takes time and it takes work. Breaking the cycle starts with, yep, you guessed it, self awareness. Being aware of your capacity and how much you're handling your stress and how much you have agreed to do. The real question ends up being, how do we create habits and strategies to prevent the burnout cycle? Which is harder than we think. This is why it takes time, because we need to change habits, build in accommodations, and really take a look inside ourselves. That's not easy. Believe me, I know, but it is so, so worth it. In order to start that self awareness piece, start writing down your most common symptoms of burnout. What leads you to that state of overwhelm and shutdown? What does it for you? What are the things that you notice you feel when you're burnt out? Some people take on too much at work. Some take on too much in their social lives, and some put in the work on themselves. Now, we all experience burnout differently. So, what are some signs that you can recognize for you? For me, I would get burned out by taking on a lot at work, people pleasing in my social life, and putting more and more on myself within my coaching and my podcasting business. Some ways to prevent burnout are to be realistic with your daily tasks and schedule. Okay. And this part is hard because it involves prioritization, which we suck at and we hate. You want to try to make sure that you are making plans for reality, not that most productive version of you. Okay. Another way is to build in a support system of safe people who love and care about you. Because as ADHDers, we forget how important having connection is. Another big part of preventing burnout is treating your ADHD, however that looks like for you. For me, it means taking my meds, going to therapy, engaging in my group coaching program, and making sure I take care of my basic needs. Get yourself outside, step away from the devices. Nature is such a wonderful form of nurture for us. I mean, if you can get outside, do it as much as you can. Develop some hobbies. I know this one is hard. It was hard for me too. I like to color, I like to paint, I like to hike. Find things that you like to do. Maybe you like to play video games. I also like to binge watch TV shows. Some of these things we can get carried away with, but don't cut them out of your life completely. Make them a thing that you can do to reward yourself for getting a task done. Like after I get these audios recorded, I get to go outside and enjoy the rest of my day. So, preventing burnout involves also putting in accommodations for yourself, delegating tasks. So, giving other people the things that they can do, things you don't have to do. It involves taking time to rest and recharge and connect within yourself. Okay? Connect to your passions and attending to the sensory overload, aka the overstimulation that we deal with. Like I've been telling you, this is not going to be easy, but these are things I had to learn, like the 7 types of rest for the ADHD brain, how to set boundaries with other people and for myself, learning what self-care truly was and engaging in it. Most people with ADHD do not know how to rest. We think that resting is just laying still, but like we think that we know how to rest. Resting is not just lying still or sleeping or meditating, okay? There are active ways you can engage in rest and recharge your mind and body. So let's talk about the 7 types of rest and how to know which type you may need at the moment. So if you didn't know, which I didn't know until like when I was researching for this course, that there are 7 types of rest that your body needs, because rest doesn't just apply to the body. It applies to the brain too. So the 7 types are physical, mental, emotional, sensory, creative, social, and spiritual. Each type shows up in a different way when you need it and takes a different type of strategy to like attain that type of rest. So let's get into it. Physical rest. This is that feeling of tired, exhaustion, or having tension, pain, or soreness in your body. To get the physical rest, it's simple. Start by getting enough sleep or trying to, doing some yoga, meditation, taking naps, and building in breaks during your day. Maybe even treat yourself to a massage. Then there's mental rest. We know we need it when it's harder to focus, you have more brain fog, you are easily distracted and or decision fatigued. You get, just completely distracted within yourself or within your workplace or at home. So to get mental rest, try to do a digital detox. Leave all your devices inside and go outside and be in nature. And this whole digital detox thing, it applies to all the things I'm about to say. So like put the stuff away, put the devices away, and journal, schedule, like make sure that you are relaxing, okay? Like turning your brain off. So you need to schedule your work and your time so it's not in the back of your head all day. So get it out of your head and put it on paper. Emotional rest is number 3. This is when we're more irritable. We cannot regulate our emotions well, and there are more of them, way more emotions. Emotional rest consists of learning how to identify and process your emotions, creating boundaries for people who you do not have capacity for, and having authentic connection with emotionally safe people. Sensory rest is needed when you're feeling overstimulated, a little extra jumpy, and or you just feel really overwhelmed. To obtain sensory rest differs for everyone. It could be nature, a dark room, a dark shower, or using a certain meditation, and including certain sounds with those if you can, like lo-fi, brown, and white noise. The next one is creative rest, and this is needed when we feel our creative motivation dwindling. We have no motivation for projects we like to do. Being creative is no longer enjoyable. This usually happens with ADHDers who have a creative-based job, like such as being a content creator, a podcaster, a book writer, things like that. So to gain creative rest, nature does help. Drawing and painting and writing just to draw, paint, and write. So creating just to create, not for any type of monetary value, but just to do it, just to enjoy it. Something else that we can get creative rest from is engaging in play. It helps us to rest that creative part of our brain. And I know you're like, play? What do you mean? I'm not a kid. You can still play if you're an adult. And I'm sure you know what feels fun for you, right? Social rest is something we need when we are feeling that RSD come on strong. You're feeling rejected, overstimulated in social situations, and or you just want to isolate from social gatherings. To gain social rest, spend some quality time alone with just you, unmask, and let yourself just be. And be very selective in your social engagements. Join a support group or community, a supportive community of people that, do the same hobby that you do, or fitness, a sport. Join an ADHD community. These are places that you can go and unmask. Spiritual rest is needed when you feel a lack of sense of purpose and or fulfillment in life. So obtaining spiritual rest is different depending on your beliefs and your religious background. So prayer, meditation, reflection, and gratitude are ways to rest in a spiritual way. Knowing what type of rest you need and when you need it is essential to preventing ADHD burnout. Usually, what we need is social and physical rest, but a lot of times we do need the other types, we just don't know it. Next class, we will talk about work life balance and how to maintain the prevention of burnout.